Good day. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be presenting the Fluke 7000DP Defibrillator Analyser. Firstly, your USB cable and your power supplies connect at the back of the unit. So if you turn around, you'll just find the plugs there for it. On the front of the unit, we'll see we have the two pedal adapters where we make use of our defibrillator pedals. If you want to shock through your pedals, you place them on here. But if you want to make use of your internal pedal cable, you can by just pulling them up, remove them, and you have the connections for your internal pedals underneath these pedal adapters. Let me just place them back again. Let me actually keep them out. Thinking for the recording, what we're going to be using is, for simplicity reasons, I'm going to be using the internal pedal adapters. So I'm just going to connect these two. You can see as normal 4mm banana plugs that you can make up your own cable that connects in there. Secondly, at the back here, we've got the 10 connectors for the 12-lead ECG placed here. So I'm just also here, right arm to right arm, left leg to left leg, and the left arm to the left arm. I'm going to connect them there for now. So once we connect it, our power button positioned here, the little green one, if we press it, the machine comes up with a Fluke logo. And the first thing it asks us is to select a function. What do we want to do next? Now, on the side here, you can see this is where our our functions are. So we're first just going to run through the setup of the unit. So if we press the setup function, you can see now the bar that comes up on top of your function keys. The first one being function 1 is battery. The first function we have is disable or enable the battery power, the auto power off. So if you press the function, you can see the block that appears around the disabled with the up and down arrow. These up and down arrows refer to these 4 arrows on the side here. So by using this up and down, you can see I can set it to switch off after 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or back to disable. Okay, and then just press function 1 to enter it. Charge battery. Do I want it to charge the battery when it's plugged into the power or not? You can change it there. Train your battery. That is, with any battery, over a period of time, it starts to build up a memory. So this is just to prolong the lifespan of your battery. The moment you press it, you get the instructions on here. And please take note, as it says here, it might take between 10 to 15 hours to deplete the battery and to recharge it again. And so if you want to do that, make sure you have the time available. And by pressing continue, you will then take it through its reconditioning of the battery. The back function just takes us back to the previous one. And then done. And we're back to the main setup menu. The second one, function 2, is our display. First one on here is contrast. If we press that, again, you can see the up-down arrows where we can change the contrast of the screen. Auto backlight off, that again is after a period of time, the screen will dim just to save your battery power. Let's go back to done. Sound, we can switch on the beeper and we can set the volume to medium, low, or high. More. Instrument info, that is just where you'll be able to see what's the firmware version, the serial number, and so forth of the machine. If you press the More button, that's where you'll be able to see when last it was calibrated. Go back, and then your ECG reference lead. Which lead do you want to use as reference for your synchronization measurement? And then the defib load. We always use the 50 ohm internal load, but you can, if you've purchased the external load, which is an additional box that you purchase with the unit, you can change it to external. Let's just turn it back to internal, back, and exit. Next on our list of the functional list is ECG. That is if we want to use this as an ECG simulator. So if I press ECG, function 1 is what signal do I want. So if I press there, you can see I have a rate. If I press the rate, I can increase or decrease the rate. Press it again. Amplitude, I can increase or decrease the amplitude of the wave. And back. The performance. Performance, some machines requires a testing on a square wave or a triangular wave. And this is where you'll find that. Pulses, sinus waves, triangular waves, square waves. Same with amplitude and the rate of that particular wave. Then pacer interactive. That is when you want to set a demand mode for your pacer, meaning you want to set a rate that's lower than your defib pacer is set to see whether the pacer comes in. And the same there, you've got an amplitude, a threshold, and a rate that you set. Go back. If we go to the More button, this is now where you start to get more arrhythmia type of waveforms, like your supraventricular, your prematures, your ventriculars. If you go to more, your conductions, your TV pace, your R waves, and etc. Okay, let's go all the way back. Exit. That is our ECG. If we go to the pacer function, now in order to do pacer testing, there are two inputs. We have the normal input here on the defib side, but please pay attention, as you'll see written here in the middle, the pacer input is 50 ohms on these two connectors. If your service manual requires you to do a adjustable load, maybe do a load at 50 and at 100 and 150 ohms, we will then have to remove these two and move them to the side here to these pacer inputs. As you can see here, if I just remove this, here you have an adjustable pacer input from 50 to 1500 ohms, which you can adjust. Okay, so let's put it in there for now. On your functions, the first one that comes up is what brand of machine it is that you need to test. So we start off with a default algorithm, which sort of covers most machines. But if you then go to the function, go to your up and down keys, you'll see we've got a GE responder, we have a MDE 300, we have a physio control, MRL, Philips, Schiller, Zoll, and back to the default algorithm. So if the unit you are looking for is not listed there, then make use of the default algorithm. Second function is our defib input jacks. Now that is what I talked about earlier on, being your defib input jack or your pacer inputs. So by pressing that function, you change between pacer and defib, pacer, defib. You'll see once we're on defib, if I go to load, which is 50 ohms, it cannot be adjusted. If I change to pacer and I go to load, you see it becomes adjustable. So from here on, I can choose between various load resistances. Okay, and done. Okay, exit. The next one is our defibrillator function. If I want to measure the output energy of a defibrillator, first, once I've gone into it, it asks me what do I want to do with the defib. I have the option of measuring the energy, measuring the synchronization time after the QR wave, or measuring the charge time of the defibrillator. So if I want to measure the output of the defib, I go to energy, and then I can choose to either set a ECG wave with it or not use an ECG wave. If I want an ECG wave, I can press the function, and with the up and down arrows, I can make use, choose whichever waveform I would like. Once you've chosen, then the amplitude and the rate is available for change as well. If If we say done, you see it stays there. Wave conversion, meaning that if I've set a fibrillation, for instance, a VFib, after the shock, it will then change to a normal waveform if I've put it on convert. If I say no convert, it means it will stay on the set pulse, the waveform. And once the machine say ready, you can apply your pedals and you can shock, and you will get your energy delivered. Let's go back to defib again. Sync time. If I go to sync time, again, I choose the waveform which I want to use to synchronize from, and the same as the conversion time. When the machine is ready, you can apply the shock, and the unit will measure you how long after the R wave the machine delivered the shock. If we go back, the next one is charge time. Charge time you don't really need a waveform for, but the function is there to set a waveform. All we want to do here is we want to measure how long it takes the defibrillator after you've pressed the charge button to reach its maximum energy level. So what we need to do is you need to set your defibrillator at the required energy level, apply your pedals or your internal electrodes, as we've done here. And then the moment you press the measure button, it's going to give you a few seconds countdown. And once it reaches 0, you need to press charge on your defib. And the moment you reach energy, you need to press shock. And that time from the moment you press charge to the time you apply the shock, that is your charge time, which will be measured by the unit. So you'll see if I press measure, charge defib, it gives you a 5-second delay. And after the moment it reaches 0, it starts counting the clock. And that's when you charge and you discharge your defibrillator.